Welcome back, everybody, to the GioMoShow, the GioMO Show, your home for all Oakland sports and beyond from WXOU. We just got done with all of the Oakland sports that happened throughout the past couple of weeks through my absence and through the Horizon League season of the men's and women's soccer team and the volleyball team and a little bit of the club sports and some news on cross country. So we covered all that in the first half of the show, and if you're joining me now at 7:30 and wondering, man, I can't believe I missed that. Where can I go and find the GioMo Show so that I can go back and play the show at any time, anywhere, any place at my convenience? Man, if only Giovanni Moscheri, host of the GioMo Show, did something to help me get my GioMo Show. Well, I'm glad you asked that specific question because the GioMo Show episodes are always uploaded to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe, rate, review, and subscribe. It all helps the show. That's where you can find it if you're not listening right now on 88.3 FM. But for now, you can go and find that later this week when I upload it. Until then, we are talking about the NFL, which for a lot of you guys, I understand the radio audiences here, you most likely want to hear that as well. So we'll talk about the Detroit Lions and their Monday Night Football victory over the Seattle Seahawks. And we'll save the old news about the previous weeks, right, and talk about them. But we'll just focus on Lions and Seahawks, and then we'll get into the GioMo Show picks from last week, where I had the best week of my NFL season of pick'ems, where each week me on the GioMo Show pick each game of the NFL season. We'll kind of change the schedule on that because with doing it on Tuesdays, it's kind of far ahead to pick the games. So what I'll do is I'll release my picks on social media, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, go and follow so you don't miss, and then we'll review them when we come back to the studio here on the GioMo Show. Sound good? We'll do it that way. So we'll begin with my thoughts on the game. But before that, one last note. I met Crackman. I don't know if you Lions fans are familiar with the Crackman. A wonderful, wonderful gentleman. Hall of Famer in 2001 for being the Detroit Lions fan. Ron Cricchiola. I just happened to run into him in public and got a picture with him. He's the sweetest dude. He's as advertised in terms of how much he loves the Lions. Always wearing Lions stuff. Like, it wasn't even game day. It was a Saturday I ran into him. He's still in his overalls, still with the Lions stuff on, and a great guy. And I believe that being part of why we won against the Seahawks, why we broke the curse. My personal my headcanon, I believe meeting Mr. Crackman led to the Lions beating the Seahawks. So that's my segue into this. So going into this game, I thought that the absence of Pete Carroll, the oldest head coach in the NFL last season, I thought his absence from the matchup would make a difference. I thought that the reason the Lions just haven't been able to beat them in like 10 plus years or like their past 6 matchups, whatever the record was, we've never beaten the Seahawks in a very long time. I thought Pete Carroll being gone would fix some of that. It fixed some of that, the winning part, but the game had a very similar flavor to a lot of the other matchups that we've had against the Seahawks, and specifically against the Geno Smith Seahawks, because it was another high-scoring, high-flying, rock'em sock'em battle in Ford Field. That was a lot of fun to watch, but I was biting my fingernails by the end of that game, man. It got tight. I was getting nervous. Flags were flying, which is never good in a Lions game because they rarely go to you, even though I believe it was kind of 50-50 as to the help it gave each team. So for this will be the only mention of the officiating, but I think it was bad enough on both sides to where it was okay as an end result. It was somewhat even. We got screwed on some. We got some ticky-tack PIs. They got an offensive pass interference late in the game. Maybe that had more weight to it than others. They were cost maybe a touchdown or two from a missed PI call, even though they've gotten touchdowns from the PI. I think it was bad enough to be even on both sides. So I won't focus too much on the officiating, as frustrating as it made the viewing experience. We'll leave it at that. But Otherwise, in that game, I want to kind of focus on the negative stuff first. For whatever reason, our defense struggles against Geno Smith and the Seahawks. And now they have fantastic receivers, and I think that's something that's going to happen to a lot of teams this season. When you have a 1-2-3 punch that's as amazing as the Seahawks have. When it comes to Candyman, DK Metcalf, when it comes to Old Man Lockett, and when it comes to fresh Ohio State face Jackson Smith and Jigba, that's a really good receiving core. All right, that's a very good receiving core. But what I want to give higher props to, kind of negative for the Lions, but I want to be positive for the Seahawks a little bit. Kenneth Walker is awesome. I can't help it. Kenneth Walker is so dope, dude. The flip that he had over Anzalone, where he literally somersaulted over him, got an extra 4 yards before going down. He is impossible to tackle. The tosses that he gets to the edge with are stunning. He's so hard to tackle, man. K9 is a beast. And it's undeniable when you watch him. When he's healthy, he's awesome, man. We got great running backs too, of course. We'll talk about that in a second. But man, Kenneth Walker and even Zach Charbonnet, that's a good running back room too. The Seattle offense is loaded with talent, at least at the skill positions. But I just want to give props to all of that for the Seahawks. It made for a very interesting game, but it was also part of why the Lions have been struggling against this team in the recent years. But they just got good players. They proved it to me last night where, against a Super Bowl contending Lions team, they were able to hold up and maintain a wonky and cursed matchup. But that curse did not continue as we won the game in amazing fashion. The headline reads, I'm not reading anything, I'm just thinking. The headline of this game is that Jared Goff is perfect. 18 for 18, almost 300 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a receiving touchdown where that leaves Amon-Ra St. Brown also perfect from passing, 1 for 1 on a touchdown pass to his quarterback. Goff, think about that. Not a single incompletion in a game where the corners of Seattle in Witherspoon and Woolen are some of the best duo in the league, and Jared Goff doesn't throw a single incompletion? That's spectacular. That's amazing. I couldn't believe it, and I was so scared when Joe Buck, who was on the call, along with Troy Aikman on ESPN, he kept mentioning Goff was 11 for 11. Goff was 12 for 12. I'm like, shut up, don't say that. Stop that. He mentioned that Goff has, wanted to focus on being clean and taking care of the football. Stop saying that. You're going to freak us out. You're going to curse us, Joe Buck. But that didn't end up being the case. Goff remained perfect. The offense was, even though at times it struggled, was very productive, especially on the ground, where we got... I talked about Charbonnet and Walker as a very, very good running back duo. But Montgomery and Gibbs are some of the best, if not the best, running back duo in the league. And that created a very tough conversation that I am so happy to have. Let me know what you guys think, either on social media or otherwise. Who is better between Montgomery and Gibbs? I've seen the question go around throughout the game on Twitter, and it had me scratching my chin. Because at the time when I read it, it was Montgomery that had a lot of the carries at the time, or at least a lot of the recent carries, and he's bulldozing, and he's catching passes, and he's shoulder slamming people to the ground, just deleting their balance as they plop to the ground, and runs it for another 30 yards. But then you see Gibbs, like a bat out of hell, out of the middle. You see him with his speed, able to run between the tackles as well. But who's better? Montgomery, all around, great great talent. But Gibbs' high points, his ceiling, his catastrophic potential offensively makes it a tough conversation. So let me know what you guys think. I'll declare, I think Montgomery gets a very slight edge as to an overall running back, where bulky, shifty enough, hard to tackle, can catch the ball, doesn't do it often, but can catch the ball. Kind of having a bigger size allows him to be better in pass protection. So even though the passing game obviously goes towards Gibbs, I dig Montgomery and being able to get the tough yards compared to the home run opportunities that Gibbs gives you. But before you guys get mad at me, think about that kind of question. We have running backs that are so good that it's not a question of who's better because the other guy stinks. It's a question of who's better because they're so good you can't tell. Oh man, I'm so happy I get to ask that. Oh, that's just such a good conversation. If I had a show 4 hours, 5 days a week, that would fill up my airwaves so much. Is that one you could just talk about constantly, man? Gibbs or Montgomery? Thunder or lightning? It's exactly what you wanted out of that duo. It's the peak of running back by committee. It's the peak. It is the best case scenario, the running back room that we have. And they were on full display. Gibbs with 2 touchdowns. Montgomery had the first one. Lions got a big, especially with Jack Campbell hitting DK Metcalf so hard, not even hitting the ball, just hitting DK Metcalf so hard as he was being held back kind of by his jersey, but was being slowed down, held in place. He just knocked the hell out of him and knocked the ball loose, leading to Gibbs' first touchdown, which I thought was just awesome. And throughout the rest of the game, it was close, and it was getting to a point where I was nervous. Could this be cursed again? Could this go to overtime? Could a penalty by a rookie corner, who is a rookie and has things to correct, but could things like that cost us the game? Even the veteran PI, even the veteran pass interferences and holdings were a little bit weird, but it just smelled rotten at the time. I stayed up the whole time watching it. But when the Lions got that last touchdown to get into the 40s of points, I started to feel a little bit more comfort because it was a 15-point lead. And it got cut to 13 with a very strange safety where Goff, as tall as he is, just wasn't tall enough to hold the ball past the goal line as he was going down. It was the right call, but when that happened and the Seahawks get the ball back, I was like, oh no. That could be the opportunity for the Seahawks to get into this, because now it goes from a 15-point game where you need a 2-point conversion out of 2 touchdowns to tie it, but now it's like, okay, you can score 2 touchdowns and the extra point would be the game winner, would be the game leading. So that's where I got a little bit nervous, but luckily the Lions were able to do just enough to beat a very hot team, one that has cursed them for years, to get to 3-1 out of the first quarter of the season. It is awesome to see the Lions offense back the way it was. Unfortunately, it comes at the cost of the defense. It was the opposite the first 3 games where you had big defensive performances where the offense was lacking. Now they kind of flipped roles, at least for this game. I'm not as worried about the defense. I mean, some injuries didn't help, going into this game. I don't know if there's many coming out, but I'm not too worried about the defense in regards to this game, only because this is just how it goes against the Seahawks. I'm going to have to see it coming out of the bye week to really get a flavor as to this defense long term. But I'm not worried. I think we got our mojo back, and I think we're going to be fine. Expectations remain the same. Returning to the NFC Championship game, I think that's just a universal opinion. It's not something that's been disproven yet, and it's one that I hold out hope for. So that wraps up our segment talking about the Lions. Oh, and by the way, Kirby Joseph ending it, chef's kiss. Kirby Joseph's a monster. He is it's a trend. Like it's something you expect where the game ends on a Kirby pick. That is a often occurrence that he is able to do that. And he is I just love Kirby Joseph, dude. He is sweet. And ending the game that way is just awesome.